All right. As I kind of mentioned a moment ago, we each had our different path into the NFL. And for some, they have the opportunity to go to the combine, which is essentially a big interview, right?
Yep.
Mostly important for the medical. I mean, that's really why it was started in the first place, to be able to see, what ailments, what issues.
Correct.
As a player, when you go to the combine, you go through every single team medical staff. So you have the different doctors pull on your shoulders and your legs. And I remember, and usually they were broke out in rooms of 4. So you have 4 teams in each of those rooms, and they're primarily doing the same test. They're doing a lot of the tests on your knees to make sure those ligaments are intact. Same thing, elbows, arms, everything else. It's almost like getting like executive physical 32 times. I mean, that's what it feels like. I remember getting to the very last room, one of the last teams, and I had a torn PCL from the bowl game my senior year. And for whatever reason, I don't want to tell anyone about it. I wasn't trying to be dishonest. I was just like, I don't need to give anyone any more ammunition to not draft me somewhere in the first round.
Yeah.
So I was trying to be quiet about it. I had rehabbed it as best I could. I even happened to see the doctor who I consulted with on this injury, because he was a team doctor. And he kind of said, "Oh, you've done well." He kind of gave me the wink and all that. And so I don't know like how that really works. I mean, obviously HIPAA, you can't necessarily share with anyone else. But obviously their team knew the injury that I'd sustained. So, moving on to the very last room, at that point, so many people are pulling, prodding on you. They test out both my knees, and the doctor kind of tests out my bad knee and goes back to the other one. And he goes, "You know what? Let's get some imaging on this."
You're like, dang it.
No. And it's your worst nightmare as a player, because, look, the medical staff in Indianapolis does an unbelievable job of handling this huge influx of players who need x-rays and MRIs and like anything you can think of as far as imaging goes. So they do a great job, but guys get upset. We've seen in past years, guys get frustrated. So I just remember like him saying, "You know what, why don't we get him on both knees?" And I was like, all right. And so you kind of have to take it in stride, but it's a lot of hurry up and wait. Whether that's to meetings, whether that's to your medical evaluations, whether that's to cognitive testing, physical testing, anything else. And you don't get a lot of sleep because they wake you up a lot of the early mornings. They drug test you. There's PED tests. They try to get you up to go in to measure your height, weight, hand size, all that. That's that whole sort of thing. So it is a big time job interview. Although I will say this, it's become much more of a made for TV event and not so much for the players. And back when I was there, I would at least say the testing was earlier in the day. At night, it was more meetings, and you'd be, going in and having breakout sessions with teams. They'd be testing you on the board, watching film with you. These almost 15, 20-minute speed sessions, which was pretty unique. But nowadays, that still happens. The difference is like a lot of testing's at night. And so it's crazy. It's one of the reasons why I was going to say you're not seeing a lot of guys throw. Some guys don't even want to test because pro days become that much more important and pivotal because they have the opportunity to be in a comfortable setting that they know where they can perform their best because you get one shot at doing this, right? So talk to me a little bit about just your process going through it. You didn't go to the combine. Obviously, your pro day was much bigger then.
Correct. Yeah. So throughout the process, just getting ready, thinking I was going to get an invite to the combine, all-star game, went to that, did well. Then found out I wasn't going to the combine. So like you said, everything meant so much more for pro day. So while everybody's at combine, you're continuing to train. And sidebar, like I'm with you 100%. I think the combine's overrated. It's big for teams in regards to finding out the medicals. But other than that, it's just like you see so many coaches not going anymore because it's essentially a waste of time for coaches because, like you said, it's like speed dating. You don't truly get to know who a player is in 15, 20 minutes.
And that's why I don't have any issue with any player not performing.
Me either.
They're telling you what they think of it when head coaches don't go. And I know in some situations you'd say, well, they're not the decision maker for the draft. But the reality is, like, if the head coaches aren't going the guy who you're going to be playing for, like, obviously they don't think that's that big of a deal.
Exactly.
And I think it's changed a lot from what it used to be.
And that's why your scouting department is so pivotal, right? Because they're there when you're having practices with your team during your college year or you go to an all-star game. They want to see how you interact, right? They want to ask the questions of people that have been close with you, how you are off the field. Like that's where you truly get to learn who a player is, not in a 15, 20-minute breakout session where for 10 of those minutes, they're asking you to recall what you did throughout the season. The other 10 minutes, they're asking you some of the weirdest questions you've ever heard. Matter of fact, sidebar, what was the weirdest question you ever got in one of those breakout sessions?
I don't know that I got too many weird questions. I do remember specifically Gary Kubiak, who at the time was the head coach of the Houston Texans and sitting across from me and kind of got across the table. And he's like, are you ready to lead a team? He's like, we need a guy to come in here and win. He's like, otherwise we're all gonna get fired. And it's kind of like one of those tests of like how you'd handle it.
Exactly.
And I sat there, I was like, look, coach, I've been through a coach firing. Like that was one of the worst days of my life to that point. I went to play for Ty Willingham. To this day, I've told Ty Willingham this. I feel like I let him down. And that impacted me in a big way. I remember how it impacted a guy like Mike Denbrock, who's back at Notre Dame now as the offensive coordinator, because he was there on our staff as the tight ends coach. And I felt responsible as a player for not playing well enough when they needed me to. So I told him, I understand how serious this is because I've already been through it. I already felt like I'd been through that portion of the business. So that was probably one of the tougher questions that I was asked. I mean, the visits are the other thing that you'll get.
Yeah, that was big for me. So I didn't go to the combine, but Pro Day did well, and I went on 3, visits. I think at the time when we came out, I think you could only go on maybe 5 to 7 or something like that. Now I think it's like open book. Like guys go to so many different teams on a visit. So when I went to visit to Tampa Bay, Jacksonville, and I'm trying to think what was the last team I went to, but that's where I did a little bit of the medical, got to sit down with the D-line coach, D coordinator, and go through recalls of stuff I went throughout the season. So that's where my process was a little different from somebody that went to the combine. Like the Pro Day was big for me, monumental. And then also I had workouts, and they still do this, where specific teams can come and work you out if they want to do it one-on-one, right? So had a personal workout with the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. And it was interesting. I ended up going to them 2 years later, not coming out of the draft, but didn't get drafted, went undrafted, and, 10 years later, had a heck of a career.
And that's the thing, too, is a lot of these teams, we talk about the importance of like a pro day or a combine performance because they stick with you. You run the 40, that sticks with you forever. Even when you're a 5, 6, 7 year vet, like they're going to look at it and go, well, this is what he ran, this kind of speed he's capable of.
Exactly.
That's what they're going to talk about.